Sway. Hello, hi, friends and relatives. Welcome back to another episode of The Glorious Mess. We're here. We're queer and...
Get used to it.
Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say. It's the beauty of queerness, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you were to describe your weather right now, what would it be?
My weather?
Yeah.
Like, maybe a little bit bright. Like, you know when it's like there's snow and the light is like, it's like overcast, that brightness. That's kind of how I feel.
Like you're like a little cold, but then it's still
like
bright.
Bright, yeah, exactly.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm trying to think if my weather would be like the weather outside, just gray, even Stevens. But it's not too cold, not too hot. What's that thing from Mean Girls? It's like, my favorite day is October 3rd. It's like not too hot.
Isn't that? No, I think you're mixing some things.
Well,
in Mean Girls, doesn't she like tell the weather by her breasts? But it's raining like while she's doing it.
I think there's a lot of things in that movie.
That's
That's a whole episode.
Exactly.
And speaking of episodes, we had a good time, a good academic and intellectual time. But it's up to the jar. The jar decides where we go. So without further ado, I say we go into the jar for today.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, maybe
you go first.
Okay. Okay, light and fun.
Please.
It's small, so it could be.
Exactly.
They say that.
Okay.
It's not about the size, it's how you use it. Okay. What is yours saying?
DUI and the call towards sobriety. Is that light and fun? I mean, it's not academic.
It's not academic at all. And mine is having gay parents.
Oh, not academic either.
Right?
Oh my gosh, they're both like person. Okay. It's like a good vibe. They mix.
That's true. We're lightening the mood. Okay, who wants to go first? You want to talk about
having gay parents?
Yeah, because we know I don't have gay parents.
I actually didn't know anything about your dad.
Oh, wait, biological dad or foster dad?
Either.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
All right. Yeah, so born in 1980 and having gay parents during the 80s and then the 90s and then the aughts and then the 2010s. It's interesting as an experience because some people won't look at you and know that. No. Right? And so people will say
I actually look at you and I'm like, she was raised by fags. Sorry, can we say fags?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I can.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you might be able to. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's definitely qualities and things about me that probably, well, for sure came from that, you know? But yeah, like in the 80s, I think we have to remember, like, my parents were not out, like when I was born, but in the 80s is when like the AIDS epidemic happened, right? So like this was a very real thing happening, and politically it was a lot different than it is today. And then kind of going into the 90s, like let's say when I was in high school, my cohort was pretty open. Like, so already by the time I was a teenager, you could see younger people being more open-minded. And like in my high school, there were some people who were out. I was still not really talking about it. Like I had a lot of anxiety talking about it.
Because when did they, if you don't mind me asking, like, when did they come out? When does the divorce, right?
I was about 6, I would say, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And they're each other's beards. Is that what they call it?
Well, they were in love.
Yeah, okay.
They were in love, yeah. I mean, my dad, for sure, he's spoken more about that. So, yeah, like, they were together, but then my dad went away and did a PhD. So he was gone. I think I was 6 when he left for that. But it was kind of like while he was gone that I think they had that conversation. Okay. I wasn't actually privy to many of these conversations or much of the information, to be honest with you. So I kind of had to like piece things together. But I would say it was around when I was like 6 years old, 7 years old. Okay. So then, yeah, so like kind of the 80s, I was young and I didn't fully understand the context of everything at the time. But looking back, I think it's interesting to be like, oh yeah, like my dad, a lot of his peers, his same age peers, died of AIDS, you know? He didn't talk to me about friends he'd had. I don't know if he knew many people because he was still with my mom at that time. Closeted, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot I don't know.
When you say like such as queer community, you talk about like chosen family, right? The family you make because you might not have that relationship with your biological family. And it's like that generation, like there's a gap even today when you think of like our elders, you know how like most communities have these elders that teach you and walk you along the journey. Those who suffered through the AIDS epidemic.
Epidemic?
Yeah.
Epidemic?
Yeah.
Epidemic.
You're the science one. I trust
Epidemic,
you. Yeah,
yeah.
epidemic. It's epidemic, not pandemic. I'm just so triggered and traumatized
Maybe
by
both,
COVID.
but yeah.
But from the AIDS epidemic, it's like you lose, there's this gap between knowledge that like we've got our kind of age group and then there's just missing, so many missing lives lost from this time. And it disconnects the community, I think, more than ever.
That's the thing is I feel like I can't, it's hard to even know because like even just sort of watching like the older gay community and how they interact with the world versus the younger gay community and how they or queer community and how they interact with the world and like the acceptance of trans people that feels like back in the 80s, 90s, I don't think that was as, you know, it wasn't talked about, you know, as much openly or in pop culture or whatever. And there are just like these kinds of constant shifts and even like with the words we use, like queer, gay, lesbian.
Queer was an insult. You call someone like a queer.
It was an insult. Yeah. Like, oh, you're queer was an insult. And then I guess it's been reclaimed. And then I think as well, just like how people use it to describe themselves now, I think is different. Like, I think you're like, I don't know, you're going to see maybe women who primarily date women describe themselves as queer or, you know, like as opposed to, I don't know, bisexual people might describe themselves as queer. It can
Straight people might.
Straight people might. Yeah, I don't know.
Culture. Stop.
I don't know what I'll say.
Stop that. What would you define it as?
I don't.
Queer.
That's the thing. I don't know. I think right now what I'm hearing is people using it as a way to encompass like their politics. Like it includes their political identity as well as maybe a sexual orientation. So, but I don't know. Like I feel like it is kind of like evolving.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, because I have a degree in gender, sexuality, feminism, and social justice. And no, I just kidding. No, I'm sure there is an agreed upon, and actually, no, arguably any definition is living in the academic environment too. It's constantly being debated. But I think how I perceive queerness is what you said. It is how my gender and or sexuality resists the binary logic. You know, I just love talking about binaries. But it resists kind of that conditioning. And it is living, so it gets to shift and change. But it's both about myself, but then also how myself relates to the system that seeks to push me down. So it part of it, I think, is like the excitement of it. Because, you know, it's like, okay, you can identify like I'm a gay man, for example, or I'm what was the other one? A lesbian woman. It's like, weird.
Which other one? Yeah, I was like lesbian.
What's the other one? What's that other one called? No, but see, that's conditioning. No, but you know, you've got like these identities, and it's kind of stable. It's a stable identity. But the truth is, like, if you think of like romantic sexuality versus sexual chemistry and sexuality, those can change. And like, I think who I was interested in 5 years ago, who I was interested in this summer it's very different, and it's always in flux. And so queerness becomes a way for you to change and mold, and nobody can say, whereas if you're like, oh, I'm a gay man and that's it, it's like, oh, but I saw you with that woman, right? It's like, right, whereas it's like, well, no, actually I'm queer, so there's space. I don't know, it's explorative, it's fun, it's like a friggin' sandbox.
I also like the idea that people can change their own labels too, and like sometimes too I'll use like different words as like an adjective, I guess. Like you could say like, oh, I'm queer, but I'm in a lesbian relationship. I don't know. Or like there's like also non-binary people who are like in lesbian relationships. And then if I kind of just like look, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It's like a vibe. And then
also if people transition in relationships, like you see people transition it. So then what happens to that relationship if it becomes stagnant? Like people change. People change.
Exactly.
Did you ever read that book by Vivek Shraya?
No.
She's a brown trans woman academic. but we won't go back into academics. We'll save it. We're taking a break. But who writes a lot about this idea of like people change, and like she writes it through the lens also of like Madonna and her obsession with Madonna, of a woman who continues to reinvent herself and always be committing to change, and that's kind of the space. That's the beauty of transness. That's the beauty of queerness in our world, that we don't have to be what we're told to be, that we get to be whoever the hell we want to be.
Yes. And I think what I like about that is like hopefully just people finding more things that bring them joy along that. I think that's what I like about that too, you know, and because I think it's nice when people get to learn good things and feel good about things they've learned. And I also wanted to go back to like the vocabulary you were talking about. Like we do now have all of these sort of different romantic types of orientations that definitely were not part of like pop culture. I'm sure somebody probably had already, you know, thought of these ideas, but they weren't as widely known. And like, you know, there's people complaining about, oh, we have so many words, all the words, whatever, the alphabet, you know, all the like really lame, hacky jokes that are made out there. Yeah. But honestly, like when I heard those words, I was like, that's actually really cool, because like you can tease apart your emotions a bit better. Like when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of feel like I have felt that way, but not that way. And it did help me understand myself, you know, a little bit better.
What's the one? No, I don't want, no, finish your thought. I don't
want
to
take it from you. And then I was going to also just say about like the word queer, what would be interesting too is to talk to, let's say, like the 70-year-olds queer community and see like, so how do you define it? Because then, like, we might be taught, like, as generations, you know, go on, like, we might be using these words so differently, having these conversations, talking past each other, but not defining the term and how we're using it in the moment. But it's normal. It would be normal that they're using it a different way than we are.
And I think there was one conversation I had with an older queer, a gay man, who had said, like, he's really uncomfortable because this was a word that people insulted him with and bullied him with. So there's a lot of discomfort. So when I brought it up as part of an introduction, he was like, but we were able to have a really good conversation about it and see how it means different things and what it can be and the transformative potential. There's a Tony Robbins buzzword, a Brené Brown. What was that word? Do you remember when we were talking about sexualities and people, you have to be intellectually stimulated?
Oh, I forget the name of that. But I don't like that.
You don't like that one. I'm going to Google it live here while you fill this space so I can find this word.
I don't know. Is that just something you like? Because I think that's something everybody, or like a lot of people like to feel like just having good conversations with somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sapiosexuality.
Yeah, that's the one. And I think there's like a whole lot of just ick around. It's like very cringy. But I think it's also especially like if you are online as a woman dating men, straight men, and they say things like, I'm a sapiosexual. Like, you're just like, are you though? Like,
shut the fuck up and
but also
suck my nipple.
But do you want, not even, no.
No nipple play?
Just no.
Okay.
No, it's more like, do you actually want to listen to me talk?
Okay.
That's kind of what
deeper.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Or it's like, is this you wanting to talk at me?
Yeah.
Like, who's the intellectual here?
Like, do you want to, what do you call it when you're mansplaining? Like, do you want to mansplain me for an hour and then not satisfy me in the bedroom?
Right.
Which is another point of queerness I think it's very important, is we like lost pleasure. Do you want some of my water?
Sure, thank you.
But it's like, is we've lost like pleasure and the idea. And I remember like Fred was asking me like, what do you really want in the bedroom? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't actually know all the time. Like I think I know, but then that changes. And so queerness also has a measure of like empowering sexuality.
Yes.
Which I think is why it is so great, is that everybody deserves to get off.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's like a huge conversation too with like, you know, heterosexual relationships and women frequently just not knowing what feels good, not feeling like they're allowed to, just being so disconnected from their body and so connected to the role they have to play. And like, I think that's very common. And then I think in queer relationships too, like we talked about before, where like there's just more conversation about everything, I think, and that includes sex. And obviously, you know, like people have their strengths and weaknesses, and it's not every relationship that is communicating very like in depth about sex. But I still feel like there's more communication about sex in most queer relationships on average than most straight relationships, and what you like.
Do you feel like growing up with gay parents, did that mean you had more exploration or comfortable conversations, or less because of
less? I would say in my situation, less. Yeah. There was like, I think just also because of the time, I don't know, there was like a lot of anxiety about being like known to be gay, queer, just being out like in a community where you live, you know, because it wasn't as accepted, you know, but like at the same time, I'm like impressed with my parents for having like done that at the time. You know, it's like they did that. That definitely took some guts. But yeah, I think that also parents are still parents, you know, they're still my parents. And there's kind of just very like regular, like typical, more what's the word, broad experiences that I had with my parents as parents, you know, than necessarily gay parents. I think the main thing having gay parents was just having this like eye into the world, because they couldn't, like, again, like people couldn't look at me and see, oh, she has gay parents. So they'd say things around me, right? So you're like, oh, I know what these people say and how they behave. You start just kind of making connections between things and how people act when they know something versus when they don't know something. And it's like, it definitely impacts how you listen to people, you know?
And how you experience people and what they assume or think they know about you and how they treat you. And I was going to say, I know we need to try and segue us. That was our goal. Our challenge was to segue us into the two. But thinking about parents, and so obviously my foster parents, not obviously, isn't it obvious I was raised by Jamaicans? Not at all. But when did I go to foster care? I would have been 10. Mom was seeking support for her issues with substance use. And so social worker, and how did I end up in a master's of social work, decided that I needed to go live with somebody else, another family, because they had deemed everyone in my like biological family was unsafe. It's not a safe place for me to be, so I have to go to this new family. And that's how like you get the last name Johnson - Brown. Brown is the foster parents. But in that with those parents, I ended up having a really positive experience. I don't think I have the life I have today without them, but like also thank God for my biological mother and her like more free way of living, her talking about healing, because, and I think a lot of people who grew up in immigrant households could agree, like, you don't talk about a lot of things like mental health. You don't talk about struggles. You keep it at home. We're very private. But when I had came out of the closet, did I ever tell you a story of how I came out?
I don't think so.
It's kind of funny. Like, I feel like I was always like a little bit queer. I have like this Bible verse on my arm. Yeah, I have a full Bible verse, Philippians 3:14. I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Hallelujah. But the reason why it comes to be...
expected that to come out of your mouth.
Well, wait till we get even deeper.
Okay.
Next topic. No, but this theme, the verse really for me was about perseverance and pressing on. And so in that chaos of being back between my mom's home and my foster home, press on in this Bible verse became really, really important. So I knew I had this attraction towards men predominantly at the time, and it was a sin. So I used to go to like my men's, youth group. My foster parents are very, very religious. And so I would go to my men's group, and I was dating a girl, and we were going to get married, and we were going to do our honeymoon in Cambodia.
How old were you here?
17, 18.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting older.
Yeah.
I'm doing a bachelor's degree in theology with a youth ministry focus. And this was my life, essentially. And then I am knowing that I have these sexual temptations, but I'm going to resist them. But then what I would do is like, I would drink a little bit, and then I would go on Craigslist at the time, and I would like email like nude photos to a stranger that was like M for M, like meet me in a car. And then I would like go hook up with someone in a car. And then I would come back. Also drinking and driving, that's this topic. Drinking and driving and play like Hillsong Christian music and be like, I'm I'm done with that life. I'm not gay no more. Like, I'm not doing that. And then I would go home, pray for forgiveness, move on. But then
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
It was a lot, like a lot of shame, and then still like
Yeah.
enacting it. And so when I'm 20, I do a musical, Hairspray the musical, and I meet a choreographer. And on my 20th birthday, I call it my quarter life crisis. We're drinking, and then we kiss in a parking lot. And then this kiss in the parking lot, apparently someone from the church was there at the club and took a picture and sent it to my foster parents. And so then a few days later, like, we need to have a serious talk. And then I have a serious talk with them, and they said, we love you. You are our son. You know, we love you. We see you. But if you're going to practice this guy lifestyle, you can't live under our roof anymore.
Yikes.
And I was kicked out. And so when we talk about having gay parents, like, I had the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like, it was a choice, and there was so many layers and things I could get into, but that was my kind of coming out story. And also, like, I never really drank because my mom was an alcoholic. My grandparents were alcoholics. There's so much alcoholism in my family. I didn't really drink until that point, but my queerness was realized in my drinking. And so then where do you go as like a young queer, or yeah, I was young, a young queer person. It felt late now when like kids are coming out at like 2, but as a young queer person, where do you go? You go into the club lifestyle, and that was the social arena. Like, that was, everything is surrounding alcohol. Even I was just in Calgary Pride performing, and like everything we really do is always surrounding alcohol and substances. And that was my segue. I'm going to give it to you to add some reflections.
Well, yeah, I think talking about like just drinking as a way to kind of either like do things that you feel scared about or unsure about or shame about. I think that's very common. And just like, yeah, just drinking and partying as a young person, but then you also kind of have like, let's say the gay men, going to be a bit of a cliche, but I think there is, a focus on partying.
Yeah.
But
you say lesbians don't party? You're going on the record?
No, they don't party. They're also not funny. They don't have a sense of humor. Yeah.
Hey, we have fun at Champs. Champs in
no,
Montreal.
I know. I'm totally kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, it's really easy to center your life around drinking and partying as a young person, because that is the thing to do. And actually, like, when I quit drinking, I was really like, well, what do people do? Like, I truly was confused. Like, I was like, what do you do? Yeah. And now I realize, like, I actually just go to bed earlier. I'm also older, so it's easier, right? But like,
you go to bed so early.
I wake up so early.
I know, that's
I
true.
Work so early.
Yeah, I'm always like, I think a couple times I went to bed and you were waking up.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I was in Alberta. I think. Yeah.
But I used to basically be nocturnal as well. Like, when I was going out, I was staying out all night. Yeah. Often, and now it's the opposite, and I'm on a pretty good schedule. But yeah, like, I guess going back to, drinking and just that whole scene, like, even also like getting sober, I've realized too, just watching TV, you're like, oh, there's certain shows where like there's always drinking happening, and.
Did you ever watch Scandal?
Oh, so long ago.
Okay, but anyway, there's always wine.
Yeah.
Like shows like that. There's always alcohol.
Yeah.
What was your wake up call? What was your moment where you're like, okay, I'm done?
I had been thinking about it for a long time, actually. And like, I had been cutting down, like pretty consciously thinking about it for like, I would say years. I was just like, this isn't great, Like, I was in my mid 30s, I guess, like when I really started thinking about it. And then I did pull back. Like, I had started pulling back from the scene, but then it was COVID, and it wasn't even like a specific event. Like, there were things happening that I was like, this isn't helping, but I had already kind of been like on that trajectory, and so I was like, okay, the bars are not even open. So I was like, this is a good opportunity, because I was like, I was still drinking wine at home sometimes. I didn't start drinking more, but in my head I was like, okay, what am I doing? I'm like, having Zoom calls, whatever, with people drinking. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And people doing that. I think for me, though, I was like, okay, am I going to just start drinking more or do I stop? Because it's going to be one or the other, I think. You know, it's just like very conscious. And I was like, I don't have access to the bars. That is a good environmental kind of situation, I think, to start trying to quit. And so, yeah, it was just, I think, I don't even know what like the exact moment was where I was like, no, I'm going to do this. That motivation came from somewhere. I'm not sure specifically.
And did you think, was it like, did you try a couple of like rule testing with yourself? Like, was it like, okay, I'm going to have just only like 5 drinks tonight, and then they fail?
I tried like every hypothesis. I was like, okay, but if I drink with these people in this situation on this day of the week, then I'm good, right? And it's like, no. And I tested all of them until they all failed. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Like,
just need to let this go.
Yeah. But I had cut down. Like at first I was like, what percentage of days am I drinking during the week?
Okay.
And then try to get that better and better. And then definitely started playing around more with like, well, there's always an excuse.
Yeah. There's always something. And I think, you get to a point where you're like, I have tried every type of rule. I remember like, I would like leave my money at home. Then I'd be like, if I only bring, I would leave my cards at home. Yeah. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm only going to bring $50 cash. This is when I was living in Vancouver. And I'm like, I'm going to go out and I'm only going to spend $50. And then that way I'm going to buy no cocaine, like, because it's only $50. But because I'm such a social butterfly, my God, people buy me drinks then. And, you know, the drug dealer, bless his heart, I can't say his name here, but I know many people know his name. But, you know, he'd be like, oh, I got a bag for you. So I was like, oh, shit, that rule, that one's not going to work out.
There's always a way, especially if you're out around people you know and you're going to, like,
E-transfer also.
E-transfer, literally, like, you will find a way. And that's, like, the addict part, right? Yeah. Where you're just like, yeah, that's not really normal.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think the binges for me were what was getting crazy.
Well, that was my problem, too.
Is like, I was like, I would stay up, party all night. And I was having a good time. And the people I drank with, like, all the party girls, you know, are really good people. And honestly, still to this day, are the people I feel the most comfortable around and the least judged by. But, you know, where most people end up going to bed, like my partner Fred, like he will still party and have a good time. A lot of my friends will, but they all go to bed. But then I'm like still up at like 8 a.m. And then I'm buying a bag and then getting like the liquor store opens at 10. And then I'm going to drink through the day, shower, have dinner, and then go out again. And like, I think I would do it. I mean, Pride is a different story. You do it and then you'd have to work. It was crazy. But like when it was in the off times, I'm like, wait, this 3 days and then the week after is just... It's hell.
It is. And like, I had the same issue with binging. And I was like you too, where I was like, oh, but like the clubs are closed. Okay. Like now where do we go?
Yeah.
And I think like in Montreal too, I just ended up knowing other people who wanted to stay out. And it's a later last call here than in Alberta.
Yeah. And there's an after hours that's 7 days a week. And then there's an in-between after hours. Do you hear about this place? Opens at like 6 a.m. and closes around 2. And it's the in-between place that you can drink at.
I mean, sometimes I just made it my apartment.
True.
I mean, there was also that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's places to go. And like, that was my issue too, because I also didn't want to or need to drink every day. But it was very much like, okay, it's the weekend. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And also getting older, like, you know, when I was 20, I could stay out late and go to work the next day and just be like, I'm so tired, you know, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then go out that night.
Yeah.
And then it became like, oh no, I have anxiety for 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
Or like a week.
Yeah.
And I feel ill and not well.
Yeah.
So.
And it can't bounce back. And in those moments, you're like the most alone. And I think some people do bounce back quickly. I don't know what it is. Like they drink and they can go, or they keep going, whatever, and they're fine and they're able to show up. But I couldn't show up fully in my work or in my relationships. And I think everyone just gets to that point. And every story is so unique of how you get there. And even when you make that decision, if you go back to and come back and forth. But I think, I don't know, I wrote the DUI that I had being like that kind of turning more. But I think even after I got the DUI, I still played with fire thinking that I would... I still remember thinking that I would like have a little drink, but every time I tried to play with fire, like either a relationship ended or an amount of money was gone, like a large amount, like that time I spent $700 on that stripper who I thought was into me, but he wasn't.
Okay,
he just
so funny. I mean, like, honestly, though, there are stories that I have that I'm like, that was funny, and also I'm glad I lived it.
Yeah,
because like I don't have to wonder.
Yeah,
like you know, I'm not sitting here being like, okay, what would have happened if I had a little more fun when I was younger? Because I know
we lived a full fucking life. Yeah. And if that stripper is listening, like, I really thought you left me, so fuck you. Well, if anyone's listening and they are in, maybe this is bringing up different things. Like, what do you think is like, what would you recommend as like a first step for someone?
I don't know. Like, I think like, okay, because I'm also such a nerd, and like part of my academic history is like working in neuroscience of addiction. And I've read a lot about like the different elements, you know, and one thing I read was actually the most helpful, or like I think the best predictor of success is just having that internal motivation. And it's so hard because like I don't know how you would get that to materialize in somebody. It has to come from within. It's kind of like, let's say, being ordered to go to AA versus choosing to go, the people who are ordered to go. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? They're just like, well, I'm just here for, you know, this other reason.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I don't know what advice I would have. Like, but if you have the motivation, I would say like, try not to be too hard on yourself. Going through all of those, like, I'm going to test this. Because like a lot of people have done that.
And I would say it's like, just tell someone, like talk about it with someone. If that's, there's so many like lines now you can call. If that's like, if you don't feel safe talking to your like close people, you can call peer networks, mental health lines. Like, you literally just Google mental health peer support for addictions, particularly. Every province has one as well. There's chat options. Honestly, I would even, you're going to hate me for saying this, but like, talk to ChatGPT.
Okay, I'm not against it for that.
Yeah, at least talk.
Well, partly because I do kind of feel like that is something where like anonymity, like people just feel very vulnerable. So in that kind of case, I'm kind of like, you know, honestly, if it gets somebody used to talking about it or figuring out how they want to talk about it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. Say something. Say something out loud, and whatever you feel comfortable with this moment. But I think just saying something out loud, and once you bring someone else into the conversation, then I think you can really begin to shape what that journey is going to look like.
And it takes time.
Takes time. And everyone is unique. Normalize relapsing. Honestly, it's never finite. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, really teaches this like all or nothing, you know, and that's why I have my grievance with AA as a model. But even that, like, if you want to start there and going to an AA meeting, you can just join a Zoom anonymously online and check it out. Smart Recovery, do they offer online?
They did, and now they do. There are meetings. Honestly, they changed the website a bit, and I'm not sure how to like find. They used to have these big national ones during COVID, and hundreds of people would be there. It's very easy to just keep your camera off and like watch
and change your name.
Literally, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think most people do.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't know, honestly. I don't know what's happened to the big meetings, but there are local meetings in some cities that are online.
Yeah.
And they let you choose like how much you want to participate. Camera on, off. Also, I think in Smart Recovery, they don't treat like a relapse or a slip as such a big deal. It's like, what did you learn from it?
And how do you move forward? Yeah. Well, it sounds like a good conclusion for this episode. As always, thank you for listening. Follow us on Instagram @TheOnlyGloriousMess and go ahead, get messy. We'll see you next time.